I think a lot of folks have the misrepresentation that if you're making an impact investment, you're going to have a lower expected return threshold. And that's just not the case, at least in the biotech world. Biotech is high risk and high reward. And so you can generate financial returns.
Welcome to Digital Health Disruptors by CharmHealth. On this podcast, we explore the trials and triumphs of pioneers at the intersection of technology and healthcare. I'm your host, Ranjani Rangan. Welcome back, Disruptors. It's fantastic to have you join us again for part 2 of our Bioverge investment series featuring CEO Neil Littman. Before we get started, I wanted to say CharmHealth is having an innovation challenge for promising health tech startups. If you have an innovation and would like to participate, then head over to charmhealthchallenge.com to find out more. The CharmHealth Innovation Challenge is in Washington, D.C. at the Grand Hyatt from August 23rd to 25th. Today, we have an exciting lineup of discussions that will delve into the heart of biotech investing and its impact on healthcare transformation. We'll look at Bioverge's approach in supporting portfolio companies, what factors influence the speed and scale of returns, and how will Bioverge stay ahead of the curve and adapt to market fluctuations. Finally, stay tuned as we explore the Digital Health Transformation Fund powered by the collaboration between Bioverge and CharmHealth. We'll hear from Dr. Venki Chelappa, VP of CharmHealth, and about the active role and partnership with Bioverge in shaping the future of digital health tech. Now let's get ready for an insightful journey into part 2 of our interview with Neil. Let's dive in. Hi, Neil. Welcome back. Really excited to chat with you for part 2 of this podcast.
My pleasure. Excited to continue the conversation.
Neil, finance and social impact seem to be traditionally two vastly different worlds, but you seem to think differently, and I wanted to delve into this a little bit. I'm going to read a portion of one of your blogs. For a long time, the common wisdom has separated philanthropy, that is donations of financial resources towards social change, from investing, which is meant to support purely financial interests. However, impact investing, a term coined by the Rockefeller Foundation in 2007, has grown as a movement by demonstrating that investing for returns does not have to be mutually exclusive with doing good. Can you please dive into this a little bit and make your pitch for impact investing?
Yeah. So by definition, investing in healthcare and healthcare innovation is impact investing because the goal is to have an impact on people's lives. And our pitch is this whole idea of investing with an impact while also trying to generate financial returns is not mutually exclusive. The idea is that you can make an impact and you can generate financial returns, right? Healthcare obviously affects all of us. Many of us don't think about it until we're sick and we need help and access the healthcare system. And it sort of harks back to that story about Evie that I told you when I was at CERM and the gene therapy program. Those types of technologies have a major impact and they can generate outsized financial returns for investors.
If you missed the story of Evie and her role in the founding of Bioverge, be sure to check out part 1 of this 2-part series.
A lot of people, when they think about donating, they use a different part of their brain than they think about investing. But you can actually think about them in the same light in certain circumstances, and they don't have to be mutually exclusive.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. I really wanted to dive into your investment strategy. Could you outline the investment strategy that Bioverge employs, and how do you aim to deliver value to investors?
Yeah. So why don't we start with the investment thesis? So the name Bioverge, in fact, comes from this concept of the convergence of biology with technology. So Bioverge, and that continues to be our investment thesis today. Animal models do not necessarily recapitulate human disease very well. Some do so better than others. And there's always a problem with translation. And so are there different tools, technologies, techniques that companies can apply to increase the probability of successfully running human clinical trials? And so there's been a lot of advancements in things like artificial intelligence and machine learning that are trying to do those types of things. There have been lots of advancements with organoids, for example, or induced pluripotent stem cells, iPS cells. How is some new technology, some new drug or therapeutic going to impact the patient at the end of the day? Currently, about 60% of our portfolio are targeting biotech, typically platform biotech companies. We're investing in novel modalities So cell and gene therapies, for example. But we do have some small molecules and biologics in the portfolio as well. And then I say probably about 20% to 25% of our portfolio are within the digital health and digital therapeutics realm. But we are firm believers that we have a sick care system in this country, not a health care system. And so digital health, digital therapeutics aim to combat the largely preventable chronic diseases that a very large percentage of Americans suffer from in this country. And then the remainder of our portfolio is spread around between diagnostics. We do a little bit in med tech, but those are the general theses of our portfolio. And then we are generally seed stage investors. We find that we tend to have the biggest impact and can help companies the most at the seed stage. But that said, we've done everything from pre-seed through much later stage financing rounds. And some of our investors prefer the very early stage deals. They like the higher risk, higher return profile. And we have other investors in our network that prefer the later stage rounds, a slightly lower risk, slightly lower return profile. So we like to have those types of offering to cover our basis. But when I talk to entrepreneurs, I tell them to think of us as a seed stage VC firm.
What's the hardest thing about being a venture capitalist today?
Growing our LP base, right? I mean, that's definitely challenging, but it's always, you're only as good as your last deal. So you're constantly out there and looking to source new high quality deals, making sure that you can provide value to the company so you can get yourself into those high quality deals, right? It's a very competitive industry. So it's not just coming with capital isn't enough, right? What differentiates you, Bioverge, from all the other firms out there, and why should an investor take your capital?
Aside from their laser focus and top-notch deal flow, Bioverge puts their skin in the game. How do you differentiate yourself from competitors such as Angel MD? They seem to have a very similar business model.
Our primary focus is we are obviously 100% dedicated to healthcare. We have a network of subject matter experts, KOLs, physicians, clinicians, biotech executives, other folks that help us in our diligence process as we assess new technologies. And we just throughout the years, we have built what I consider a super high quality source of deal flow and filter for investing in new deals. There's different investment methodologies out there. We are much more concentrated investors. We're putting our own capital into these investments alongside of our LPs in each deal, which I think is pretty unique. The other thing that I will say is we like to roll our sleeves up and get our hands dirty and help our portfolio companies as they encounter different obstacles, as they're going out to raise a new round of financing.
What is the biggest misconception about health tech investing?
I think in healthcare in general, people have this notion that it takes forever to get products approved and on the market. And that's not necessarily the case. And particularly in healthcare, actually, you can start generating revenue pretty early, right? You can do so through partnerships, or there are different ways to go about doing that. It's not necessarily these super long return timelines, although we typically say you should expect to have your capital locked up for 5 to 7 years until there's an exit event. But that's not always the case. And it does vary. For our portfolio, I think our average speed to exit has been about 2.7 years. So that's been incredibly fast.
I wanted to shift over to transparency in the VC world. When transparency in fund performance is lost, it undermines an investor's confidence and increases investment risk. Why do you think that despite these challenges, there are so many problems in VC transparency in general?
Part of it is funds don't want to share data. They don't want to share return data. I think it's just largely for competitive reasons. People are trying to keep their cards close to their chest. And I think this is a big differentiator for Bioverge from other funds and certainly other platforms out there, is we try to be very transparent. As investors ourselves, right, we try to be very diligent and provide quarterly updates for all of the portfolio companies within the Bioverge portfolio that our LPs have invested in. And we, of course, share those with our LPs. And we absolutely encourage all of our portfolio companies to do that. So for us, that level of transparency is you're investing in a company, but then you're able to track the company's progress quarter over quarter and see how the company is doing. I think that transparency is super important. And then for our access fund investors, we produce quarterly reports. So we show what's in the portfolio, what new investments have we made, what is the fair market value of those investments, have there been up rounds or down rounds? And so I think that's also really important. So it's not a black box. Part of our responsibility is to help educate our investors and to bring them along with us on the journey of investing in the private markets. And so that means that we want to be transparent. We want to share information. We want folks to know how their investments are tracking, if they're doing well, if they're not doing well. Not every investment's going to do well, right? This is a high risk asset class. And so what we want to do is we want to encourage people to build a diversified portfolio of investments to give themselves a statistical probability of being successful in this asset class. I mean, I think probably most people know that the VC asset class operates by the power laws, right? So you build a portfolio of 10 companies, one of those companies or maybe two of those companies are going to be responsible for the majority of your returns or all of your returns in that asset class.
Right.
And maybe you lose 7 or 8 investments entirely. Maybe some of them you get a 1x return, but that's how the power laws operate. We've designed a platform to have low investment minimums, as low as 5K for individual investments, as low as 25K for our access funds. And the reason we did it that way is to enable people to dip their toe in the water and to access the private markets without having to write a $50,000 or $100,000 check into a single company. And that's very hard for people to do, especially if you're trying to build a diversified portfolio of 15 to 20 companies. And so through Bioverge with our SPV model, we're trying to enable people and encourage people to build that type of portfolio and then have transparency where they can learn along the way.
You were talking about quarterly reports. Do you find that the startups that do report to you on a regular basis are the startups that actually fare better?
That's a really good question. I have not gone back to do that analysis, but in a sense, my gut tells me yes. And part of it is just, I don't know the right terminology. It's almost discipline or company hygiene. It's companies that are disciplined and have the right sort of hygiene to communicate to their investors what's going on in their company, or those folks that are just a little more disciplined in their approach. And that discipline often leads to better outcomes. And it's that communication. It's really important, right? And the other thing that I've realized, and this is just through my own updates that I provide to our LPs, is those quarterly updates are a forcing function for entrepreneurs to go back and review what has worked, what hasn't worked, what are the big challenges, what do they need help with? And that forcing function can be super valuable to entrepreneurs.
A lot of really great thoughts there. Describe to me your typical investor. I participate in the stock market a little bit. I have some mutual funds, some real estate. Let's say I want to participate. What's your minimum requirement?
Yeah. So number one, you have to be an accredited investor. So that's an SEC definition. More people qualify as an accredited investor than realize that they do. Typically, to qualify, you need to have made at least $200,000 over the previous 2 years and think you will continue to do so into the future, or have a net worth of $1 million or greater, excluding your primary residence. Number two, our investment minimums are low. As I mentioned before, it's $5,000 for individual company SPVs, and then it's $25,000 for our access funds, which are multi-company SVPs that build a diversified set of investments, 15 to 20 within every access fund. Probably about 50% of our investors are physicians and clinicians and folks in the healthcare space. And those folks inherently get what we're doing, right? They're on the front lines treating patients. They understand the impact that some of these technologies that we're investing in can have towards the future of medicine and on patients. And so they get that. And then we have a lot of tech entrepreneurs that have made their money being entrepreneurs in a technology company, or we've got some crypto folks that made a lot of money in crypto that have come in and now they want to invest in healthcare because they realize healthcare can make a big impact. There's a reason that all the billionaire tech entrepreneurs have moved into healthcare, right? You have the Chan Zuckerberg initiative, right? The Parker Center for Immunotherapy, the Paul Allen Brain Foundation, right? I feel like they want to make an impact and they realize like health is one of the things that universally affects humanity, and they want to be able to use their money to do good, right? And they want to generate financial returns. They want to make investments that will move the needle in healthcare and feel like they're doing something that matters.
Any specific advantages or benefits that investors gain by partnering with Bioverge as opposed to investing independently in biotech startups?
Yes, quite a few. So I'll say maybe 3 main benefits. I mean, number one is access to deal flow. So unless you're an individual that is super plugged into the ecosystem, it's really hard to access high quality deal flow on a consistent basis. Number two is the ability to write smaller checks through us. So if you're investing directly, you typically have to write a much larger check to go directly on the cap table of a company. So with our model, you can write a smaller check and build a larger portfolio of companies, right? That speaks to this idea of ensuring that you're investing in the asset class in a way that gives yourself a chance to be successful. And then number three is the diligence process, right? As an individual plugged into the ecosystem, even when I could source high quality deal flow, and even when I could write a check large enough to make a direct investment, it was really hard for me to diligence all of these opportunities I was seeing across healthcare. And for us, I think a lot of the value that we provide is providing investors with the diligence materials and our write up and our point of view that investors can then make an informed decision themselves. We do interviews with the CEO. We run through the deck. We have diligence Q&A. We have investment memos, right? We have all these things that is really hard for an individual to do themselves. And even if you can do it maybe once, it's really hard to do repeatedly over time, especially if this isn't your full-time job, right? And you're just doing this on the side. It's very time consuming. So I would say those are really the three main benefits.
Yep. It's a busy world. We need someone to do the due diligence, vet it out, and then make it available. So that's perfect. And are you currently raising new funds? And do they follow a specific theme?
We raise a new access fund on an annual basis, deploy that capital within about a 12 to 16 month period of time, depending on the deal flow and the opportunities that we're seeing, and then go out and raise the next access fund. So we are in the market. We just launched our newest access fund, number 5. And so this is open via general solicitation. So again, these funds, you could generally expect about 60% or so would be invested in biotech, therapeutics. These are companies that are using CRISPR or gene therapy or cell therapy or other novel modalities to advance drugs into the clinic. Then we have a portion that is dedicated to digital health and digital therapeutics. We'll invest a little bit in diagnostics and even less probably in med tech. So for us, we feel like that provides a nice balanced portfolio with a nice risk-adjusted return profile as opposed to a 100% biotech fund or a 100% med tech fund. We also have different thematic funds. And so the digital transformation fund that we have in partnership with CharmHealth, for example, is a thematic fund where we're only investing in digital health and digital therapeutic technology. So that's a very specific theme that we're investing across with that type of fund.
Yeah, we'll get into the digital transformation fund shortly here. Worth noting for our listeners, CharmHealth has created the Digital Transformation Fund, a venture fund focused on digital health technology. CharmHealth, primarily focused on providing electronic health records, aims to invest in promising early-stage digital health companies that are leading the charge in healthcare innovation. Great. So we may have some clinicians and other health tech enthusiasts that are thinking about getting on board, but they may be a little bit hesitant. With respect to returns, we know that in 2022, we hit a bit of a rough patch and there was a contraction and things slowed down a bit. And now we're in 2024 and there seems to be some confidence and optimism coming back in the market. And I know Bioverge is all about democratizing the entry for that average person. And I'm really on the edge of my seat to hear how you inspire and convince even the most hesitant of investors to jump on board.
Oh, I built Bioverge to solve my own problem initially. I wanted to diversify my own portfolio away from the public markets and stocks and bonds. And it was really hard for me to access this asset class, even though I was super plugged in as an individual just through my professional journey. It's less about convincing people and it's more about articulating the benefits and risks associated with these investments. So we want people to come in to Bioverge or into this asset class with their eyes wide open and to understand the benefits, which include diversification. And diversification away from the public markets is a benefit as well. Another benefit is investors are actually oftentimes their worst enemy. Buying when the market's hot and selling when the market's low. With the illiquidity the private markets offer, you're locked in for a certain period of time. So you can't sell at the wrong time or buy at the wrong time. So that actually, I view that as a benefit. The other thing is having some portion of your assets in alternative assets can help reduce the overall volatility of your portfolio. So that's also a positive. And of course, enhanced return potential, right? The reason you invest in the asset class is to try to generate large financial returns on the sort of 20 to 30% IRR range, because you're investing early, you're taking high risk, so you expect high returns. And so there's all these different benefits. But of course, the risks are you can't pull your money out, right? So you want to make sure that you're only investing with patient capital. You want to make sure that you're only investing with capital you can afford to lose, right? I mean, some of these investments are going to go to zero. So depending how you invest, whether you invest in a fund or individual SPVs, right? You want to do it in a way that gives yourself a statistical probability of success and build a diversified portfolio even within that in this asset class. I think there's pros and cons, right? And I think it's up to each individual investor to weigh those for themselves and to figure out how this fits into a overall diversified global portfolio of stocks and bonds, right? So we're a sliver within a much larger portfolio is the way that I think about it.
Up next, discover a collaboration between Bioverge and CharmHealth and how it's reshaping healthcare and chronic disease. And what are Bioverge's plans to navigate the changing landscape over the next 5 years? Finally, stay tuned to learn how Bioverge stays ahead of market fluctuations in the biotech sector. Are you ready to revolutionize healthcare at the point of care? Discover the CharmHealth platform, a perfect ecosystem where technologists and clinician entrepreneurs connect, ideate, and thrive. Visit us at charmhealth.com/Charmalot, CharMalot, Charmalot. Neil, I'd love to ask you about the Digital Health Transformation Fund.
So the Digital Transformation Fund is a new model for Bioverge that we are extremely excited about, where we have partnered with CharmHealth. We've created essentially what is a corporate VC fund that is managed by both parties. And it combines our expertise as investors and in terms of sourcing deals and diligencing and managing investments with Charm's deep experience in the digital health ecosystem and their robust network of clinicians and subject matter experts. You have the benefits of the Bioverge network, and you have the advantages of the CharmHealth network. So that 1-2 punch, I think, becomes incredibly powerful for us as we support companies within the digital transformation funds portfolio. And so we have a number of companies that we're in discussions with and in various stages of diligence with. What we're really excited about for this fund and in partnership with CharmHealth are different applications that can help nudge people into making different decisions in diabetes management, for example, right? We know diet, exercise, all those things have a huge impact on diabetes and the severity of disease. And in some cases, you can even reverse diabetes through those types of interventions. A lot of the technologies that we're looking to invest in are looking to make a dent in chronic diseases and in this sort of sick care system and really push things more towards preventative based healthcare. Maybe I'll turn it over to Venki.
Yeah, Venki, thank you so much for joining us for the Digital Health Disruptors podcast. So help us understand CharmHealth's motivation behind the Digital Health Transformation Fund. Can you say a few words?
Sure. One of the things we understood early on is that innovation is the key for success and progress. And once you start thinking along that line, we then went back to the drawing board, so to speak, and say, what can we do? How do we not just keep talking about it? So we came up with a few ideas. The first step is we need to make our platform flexible and customizable. It should be easy for the innovators and the technologists to come and participate and interact with us. And the big underlying theme is bring your ideas and build on our platform. Take like my diabetes tutor, for example. So all these companies, they come, our platform is flexible and customizable enough, they can build quickly and economically. Then we said, okay, venture fund is one way of participating. How do we encourage innovators to come to the platform? So we started the Innovation Challenge event. Most of the domain experts, they don't have the technology side of it, or they think it's some kind of a difficult problem. So we solve the problem by bringing our technology expertise. We have the marketplace, the API tools, and then working with Bioverge and our large network. All of them together, the innovation arm is to reduce the friction, bring new ideas and access in the healthcare system. We have completely transitioned our company from a standard EMR to more of a technology company. So these are the initiatives we have taken to transform ourselves. The ultimate goal is to be the innovation hub.
Sounds really exciting. How do you think this partnership facilitates synergy between healthcare providers, patients, and innovators within your ecosystem?
A lot of companies cannot stand alone without tighter integration of clinicians. So that's where we facilitate and make it flexible and easy to customize. So that's one thing. The second thing is the patient engagement piece. If you look at all the digital tools, they all demand extensive acceptance by patients. It's very difficult patient compliance. So that's where we have Apple integration, we have a patient portal, and it's also very easy for an innovator or a startup to engage with us and try it out. So basically, before they get to the deal stage, we are at a lower stage so that they feel more confident about this process. We have more than 70, 80,000 doctors and clinicians. When we ask them to go and find a sponsor within our user group. If you have a great idea, okay, can you find 2 doctors to sponsor your ideas? We'll be willing to work with you. Then we'll provide all the tools for you. We help them facilitate and quickly evaluate and see if this idea has some legs. It's also a big service for the entrepreneurs. You have a weight loss idea. Here are the 10 doctors you can talk to them. Can you pitch your ideas? And finally, the collaboration and networking and this huge ecosystem of our user base, patient base, and the connection with Bioverge. We validate it and tell them, okay, you can go through a CharmHealth digital fund, or here's Bioverge. You can talk to them. You have already de-risked the project. You yourself as an entrepreneur knows what works, and you have a sponsor with the domain expertise. And so the big overarching theme for us is better healthcare for all.
Thank you so much, Venki. Neil, did you want to say anything?
The only thing that I would add is from the entrepreneur's perspective, I think that the model here is unique because companies aren't just getting an investment from the fund, which of course is helpful at any stage, but they're getting access to the CharmHealth ecosystem and the network of physicians and specialists. And that can be super helpful in terms of developing the company's go-to-market strategy. And as Venki said, accessing folks. And one of the things that we're big believers in is this idea of you got to get out of the building. You got to go talk to people. You have to go talk to the end user and get feedback. And that will help refine your product. And Charm has those sort of tentacles to enable companies to go do that and accelerate what they should be doing anyway. So I think there's nice synergy. So it's what I think about as capital plus, or you're getting capital, but you're getting a lot more.
So Neil, there's such an uptick in M&A activities lately with companies getting back into the swing of merging or buying each other out. And then there's AI. It's making a huge impact, revolutionizing how things work across the board. And then we have all the cutting edge development like RNA technology, CRISPR, bioprinting, tissue engineering. Where do you see Bioverge headed in the next 5 to 10 years? Things are evolving so quickly.
Yeah, it's a great question. So if you think about Bioverge, we want to build a comprehensive ecosystem where folks can come and they can invest in individual company SPVs and build their own portfolio. And we have a lot of folks that do that. We want to offer different access funds, which are multi-company diversified funds. And then we want to offer thematic funds as well. So we want to give our investors the opportunity to invest in the areas that they feel comfortable with and they want to invest in. And one of our big things is we want people to almost be able to like vote with their investment dollars, the direction that they want to push healthcare. And so we've built a platform to enable folks to do that. And then we're also considering and having conversations around raising a larger institutional fund and giving larger institutional investors access to our platform and going with a fund that will be a more traditional fund as well. So I think these all sort of fit together. And so that's where I see Bioverge evolving over the next 3 to 5 years.
We're experiencing an exciting growth phase with the rapid increase of artificial intelligence and its potential applications. The intersection of AI and biotech holds immense promise, offering opportunities to make significant biological advances. However, how has Bioverge changed their approach to these shifts? How will Bioverge adapt its investment strategy and approach to the changing market conditions?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think for Bioverge, we have to adapt, right? I mean, we slowed down the pace of investment when times were challenging. Our LPs weren't deploying capital as fast as they had been in previous years. So that's okay. We slowed down our pace of investment. We focused on supporting our existing portfolio companies. At that point in time, it was challenging for them to raise capital. So we rolled up our sleeves and we're trying to be as helpful as we could to help them navigate those times. So we want to invest in areas that maybe aren't overhyped now, but will be overhyped in 5 years or gather more interest in 5 years, right? So oftentimes the best predictor of returns are how much capital is flowing into a sector. And so when there's an abundance of capital, that necessarily depresses returns. So in terms of us adapting, we're always trying to find that next wave of innovation where people aren't necessarily looking today, that we can get in early and ahead of the curve that will then start bearing fruit within sort of the next 3 to 5 year period of time.
Yeah. Recently, I was reading about bionauts. They're actually putting them into our cerebrospinal fluid.
Mm-hmm. That is one of our portfolio companies, Bionauts. So they've developed these sort of micro robots. They call them Bionauts.
Right.
And the idea is that they can get to very hard to reach places. And there's sort of a magnet that directs them, and they can deliver various payloads of therapeutics to very hard to reach places to, target different types of neurodegenerative diseases or brain tumors, for example. So that
is science
sounds
fiction.
like science fiction, but it is happening today.
That's fascinating. Lovely.
I mean, just in the sort of biotech investing world, like Bob Nelson from Arch has just been an incredibly powerful force in the biotech investment world. He really does invest in high risk, totally novel approaches. He's not afraid to swing big, put a massive amount of capital to work to try to make big changes. He does a great job of being 5 years ahead of everyone, and then everyone else is scrambling to catch up. So Bob Nelson at Arch, I think, is a paramount sort of biotech investor in the space and someone I definitely look up to.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and being a wonderful guest and providing so many insights. I really appreciate it. I really do believe that science fiction is becoming reality.
My pleasure. Thank you, Ranjani, for being a gracious host and for inviting me on the show. And thank you, Venki.
Thank you, guys.
That's a wrap for this episode. Our 2-part series with Neil Littman, CEO of Bioverge, has been pretty eye-opening, giving us a good look into the fast-paced world of venture capital in biotech. If you want to learn more about Bioverge's funds or connect with Neil, check out bioverge.com. And for digital health startups interested in CharmHealth's Innovation Challenge in Washington, D.C., this August 23rd to 25th, don't forget to sign up at charmhealthchallenge.com. Stay tuned for more insights and adventures coming your way. If you enjoyed this episode and want to stay connected with the latest in healthcare technology and entrepreneurship, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast. Your feedback fuels our mission to deliver top-notch content. Stay tuned for more exciting interviews with visionaries, innovators, and disruptors in the digital health space. Until next time, keep innovating, stay fearless, and continue to be part of the disruption that's shaping the future of healthcare. We'll see you next episode.